A reality that defies understanding usually triggers denial, and we see the Demon King screaming in agony. He simply refused to see what was happening, while the hero defeated him, right there in his throne room. In that moment, the man is forced to face the harsh truth of his humiliating and painful defeat. His proud black flames couldn't even scratch the hero's, and he's left wondering why. The guy questions how the hero's blade pierced his scales and buried itself in his chest. The Demon King simply couldn't wrap his head around how this could have happened to him. In his memories, he was superior to everyone and graduated as the top student at the Demon King Academy. He studied the book called The Demon King's Standard inside out and followed it religiously. Just as the standard dictated, the man built a tower and also kidnapped a few princesses. After that, he nurtured the heroes who came to save them, letting them get stronger and stronger. For a Demon King, rage and sorrow are the ultimate banquet, and taking them out early would be a waste. The standard taught that fattening them up before devouring them makes the meal much more delicious. He followed the standard more faithfully than anyone, and world domination was just a matter of time. With that, he absorbed the sorrow and rage of countless beings, including the heroes themselves. Thus, he became a Demon King stronger than any other that had ever existed in the world. But then he wonders why he is the one lying on the floor, defeated and totally humiliated. The Demon King doesn't understand how this happened, and the hero calls him trash, saying they are all the same. The hero mocks him, saying demons set everything up, but are always shocked by the final result. With a lot of anger, the Demon King questions what kind of nonsense the hero is spouting at that moment. Then the warrior explains that they always kidnap the most famous princess to send a signal. The hero calls the Demon King stupid, and says if it were him, he would have finished off the king to throw the kingdom into chaos. With this, the Demon King realizes that if the human king were kidnapped, humans would fight among themselves, and their rage wouldn't be focused on him. But that would violate the teachings of the standard and prevent him from growing as a true Demon King. The hero continues mocking him and thanks the Demon King for sending monsters to help them train when they aren't heading to the tower. The warrior also comments that when they finally arrive at the tower, things get even better for them. He explains that the first floor is always full of weak creatures, which is perfect for leveling up according to their skills. The Demon King thinks he couldn't let the hero perish along the way because he needed to harvest more energy. He did all of this just because it was what the standard taught, and he always followed the book to the letter. Next, we see the moment again when the hero charges with full force toward the Demon King. The Demon King's face shows all his shock and rage as he realizes the truth behind everything. The hero reveals that when the tower becomes outdated, they simply eliminate the Demon King, so a new one can pop up. He goes on to say that it is basically a hunting ground made for heroes and asks if his friends agree. The other heroes agree and thank the Demon King for helping them level up, even calling him their sponsor. They continue the mockery, thanking him for the great training spot and saying the tower had some pretty good loot. Fallen on the ground, the Demon King can't believe what he hears and wonders if his tower was just a gym for them. The hero admits the Demon King was strong and many heroes passed away, but that only made him more famous. Then the warrior says goodbye to the Demon King and prepares to deliver the final strike with his sword. The Demon King gets furious, thinking a mere hero shouldn't dare humiliate him like that. As his life slips away, he asks himself what the Demon King's standard was good for after all. He refuses to check out in vain, and with his last strength, tries to say who he really is before disappearing. In a final scream of fury, he declares he is the Demon King while releasing all his remaining energy. His vision starts to go dark, and his energy dissipates rapidly as he is completely defeated. The man looks up with a mix of pain and hatred on his face, accepting his bitter fate. From his point of view, he sees the heroes standing there without showing any concern for him. His consciousness begins to fade, and his vision turns to the ceiling of the throne room at that moment. The floor of the place was completely covered with the aftermath of the intense battle that took place there. With his last strength, the Demon King curses the heroes, saying they will pay the price for everything. In his eye, we see the reflection of the hero as he swears revenge for them insulting him like that. The victorious warrior observes his fallen enemy, while the Demon King swears he will make them pay. Suddenly, one of the heroes approaches and says not to touch the head because the horns are his. However, when he tries to grab the horns, a strange purple energy starts pouring out of the Demon King's body. The Demon King sacrifices his last drop of life to offer one final desperate attack against them. The hero gets spooked and wonders if that is what he thinks it is, but it was already too late. With that, a massive explosion of purple energy completely consumes the Demon King's body. The warrior who tried to grab the horns is caught full force by the explosion and screams in pure agony. The energy expands through the entire throne room and hits all the heroes who were present there. The Demon King's curse transforms all the heroes into flaming skeletons in an instant. In his final moments, he realizes the standard was wrong and was used to deceive them. His consciousness dissipates, while he bitterly regrets having followed that book the entire time. He wishes for one more chance to get revenge and do something about that cursed thing. His last curse echoes as the purple energy explodes over the tower, and he wishes for the orcs to devour the standard. Suddenly, he wakes up startled hearing someone calling the name Burz Deas really loudly. The MC finds himself in a younger body and in a familiar place, but can't understand the situation. He is in the middle of a crowd and questions, what the heck is happening right now? With his face sweating cold and his heart racing, the guy realizes that somehow he is alive. Then a voice calls him by the name Burz Deas and asks him to hurry up and get on stage immediately. While walking toward the stage, he still tries to process that whole bizarre and unexpected situation. The young man realizes it can't be and wonders if this is really what he thinks it is. The Academy Dean asks Burz Deas what a genius like him is doing being so distracted on graduation day. He receives the red badge, which is given to everyone who completes the Demon King Academy. With that, the penny finally drops, and Burz starts to understand what really happened to him. He realizes he went back 15 years in time to the day of his graduation ceremony from the academy. Burz doesn't know why he returned to the past, but he understands that this is a huge opportunity for him. Next, the class valedictorian, Burz Deas, is called as the representative to read the oath of the new Demon Kings. In front of everyone, he faces the projection of the Demon King's standard and its 6 main rules. Burz stares at the Demon King's standard with a serious look full of contempt for the first time. He remembers how he memorized every syllable of those principles to which he dedicated his entire life. He recalls that it was that same garbage that led him to his end and turned him into a toy for the heroes. Looking at the other graduates, he wonders with disgust if he really needs to read that again. And the worst part is that he would have to swear to follow those rules for the rest of his life in front of everyone. We see the teachers and the den smiling with plenty of pride at their best student. But inside, Burz grinds his teeth in anger, remembering the humiliation he went through. Then the announcer calls his name and asks him to recite the great Demon King's standard. With a smile of pure hatred on his face, the guy prepares to give his answer. To the shock of everyone present at the venue, the MC simply refuses to obey. His classmates are completely confused by that unexpected attitude of his. He screams that he can't make such a stupid oath, because following the standard is the most idiotic thing to do. With hatred in his eyes, the guy prepares to say what the standard really is. Then he shouts for everyone to hear that the Demon King's standard is nothing more than complete trash. The MC's declaration leaves all his classmates completely shocked. One of the professors is so shocked by what he hears that his glasses break on their own. The Academy Dean also becomes completely furious and shocked by the guy's audacity. Burz's shout echoes through the great Academy Hall in that tense moment. It was at that moment that the Academy's greatest orator became the century's biggest lunatic. A powerful and imposing figure slams his hand down hard, demonstrating his immense fury. Archduke Arcane Blarimph says Burrs could be executed for insulting the Demon King's standard. However, the Archduke decides to give the guy one last chance to redeem himself for his mistake. He demands that Burrs take back what he said and apologize, or his post will be in a place called Arian. The crowd whispers that Arian is the dimension where Demon Kings go to expire, basically a death sentence. They wonder why give another chance to a criminal, since an apology isn't enough. The Archduke reminds him that Arian is the worst domain, where countless Demon Kings have already lost their lives. But to everyone's surprise, Burrs looks the man in the eye and says firmly to send him there. He declares he will go to Arian to prove that the Demon King's standards are nothing but a pile of garbage. With that, the Archduke calls him a lost cause and banishes him to Arian through a magic circle. Furthermore, he won't receive any privileges, and no demon will accompany him on his journey. Burrs is then thrown out of the demon realm and forbidden to return until he completes his mission. As he falls, he thinks he already expected this after all the mess he caused. The guy is being sent back to Arian, the place where the heroes who defeated him are. He remembers that before regressing, he chose Arian himself because he thought the strongest should go there. That arrogance cost him his life, as many heroes were exploiting the Demon King's standards. A huge explosion happens on top of a snow-covered mountain at that moment. Burrs lands with his demon wings in the Urgest Mountains on the northern continent. He swears he won't let that happen twice, and that now he will exploit the system. With a look full of determination, the guy declares he will exploit the heroes' standards. Elsewhere, a man with long hair and an elegant appearance is shaving calmly. Next, he buttons up his dress shirt, getting ready for some special occasion. We find out this is Gordon Derrick, the top graduate of that year's Demon Academy. He thinks that while the Demon King Academy trains Demon Kings to rule, the Demon Academy trains the demons who will serve them, and everyone congratulates him for being able to serve Burrs. With a smile, Gordon says that all Demon Kings who come out of there are great people. With a sinister smile, Gordon adds that none of them are as great as Lord Burrs. He thinks Burrs is a prodigy of the demonic dragon lineage, and graduating with him is a blessing. With Lord Burrs by his side, Gordon believes they could conquer any dimension they wanted. He is confident that he will also be recorded in the glorious pages of the demon realm's history. But suddenly, Burrs' voice echoes in the hall, saying that everything Gordon thought is wrong. Gordon and the other students are shocked and confused by the guy's unexpected statement. The MC screams that the Demon King's standards are trash, leaving everyone even more astonished. Gordon is so shocked by what he hears that his glasses break, and he panics. Back in the present, Gordon appears in the deep region of the Urgest Mountains on the northern continent. Even with the order that no demon would accompany him, Gordon is there to serve his king. The guy with glasses wonders why Burrs is there since they said no demon would accompany him. He turns around and sees the MC approaching him with a calm and determined expression. Burrs greets him and extends a hand to him in a friendly and surprisingly chill manner. Gordon asks why he did that, and Burrs plays dumb, asking what he is talking about. The glasses guy freaks out and says he insulted the standards, and now he will also perish in Arian. Burrs asks him to calm down so he doesn't pull his hair out, but Gordon screams that hair isn't the problem. The MC wonders if Gordon was always like this because before, he was confident and composed. The glasses guy pulls himself together and says that although it's difficult, they will succeed together, and he is motivated. Burrs understands the change in behavior because the situation is different and thinks about telling him about his regression. However, he gives up on the idea because Gordon would probably think he went insane. We see Gordon catching his breath in the snow after all the confusion and stress he went through. He then apologizes for his attitude and says he will fulfill his duty, and the MC just agrees. The first rule of the standard says a demon king must build a tower in an accessible place. With that, Gordon warns that the place is dangerous and surrounded by mountains, which makes it difficult for humans to pass. But the MC completely ignores the warning and says firmly that he will build the tower right there. He then plants a tower seed in the snow, which needs Demon King blood to grow. The glasses guy screams that he is going against the standards and throwing away his Demon King pride. The MC understands his companion's disgust, because it is hard for a demon to deny such a deeply rooted faith. He reflects that one can only reject this after a drastic experience like passing away, which is what happened to him. With this in mind, the guy squeezes his hand hard, making blood run down his fingers. Then he tells Gordon that the standards are trash, especially in Arene, and drips his blood onto the seed. The demon with glasses is totally shocked and confused by his king's words and attitude. The energy from the MC's blood begins to spread through the snowy mountains around them. The tower seed shines intensely, with a powerful red energy upon receiving the blood. Immediately after, the seed begins to germinate and grow rapidly out of the snowy ground. A wave of red energy expands while Burrs begins to explain the reason for his actions. He reveals that Arene is infested with heroes, and that there are many of them everywhere in that place. Memories of the heroes who defeated him in his past life come to his mind at that moment. The tower system identifies the user as Burrs Deus of the Black Flame Demonic Dragon Tribe. With the identification complete, the tower is finally summoned and begins to emerge from the snowy ground. Burrs explains that demon kings perished there because humans discovered a mechanism and used the standards against them. In this land, the standards don't work and should be called the heroes' standards, which leaves Gordon confused. Before them, an imposing and gloomy tower rises amidst the landscape of snow and mountains. Gordon looks up shocked to realize that his king really summoned the tower in that forbidden place. The MC then walks toward the tower entrance and calls his companion to enter. They enter the first floor of Burrs's tower and find a huge and completely empty hall. Gordon comments that there is nothing there, and Burrs says this is a suitable tower for a king without privileges. They reach the Demon King's chamber on the 5th floor and realize that all the floors are empty. The demon with glasses says that since the tower is built, they should at least follow the second rule. The second rule of the standards says the Demon King must kidnap a high-born prince or princess. Gordon then asks for permission to advise his king, and the MC allows him to proceed. He suggests kidnapping the Princess of Corzin to absorb the kingdom's rage and grow quickly. Gordon already expected a refusal, but Burrs surprisingly agrees with the plan, leaving him shocked. The MC says he already has a princess in mind and orders Gordon to guard the tower while he goes. With that, the glasses demon is relieved and thinks his king was just stressed about graduation. Then Gordon asks who Burrs is planning to bring to the tower while watching him at the door. The guy turns around with a serious look and prepares to reveal his true and bold plan. He is going to the most distant nation on the continent, the Kingdom of Hilderin. To his servant's surprise, the scene changes to the balcony of a luxurious and lit room during a peaceful, starry night. Suddenly, Burrs appears flying outside the window of a beautiful princess with blonde hair. He reveals that among all the princesses, his target is the 13th, the one with the smallest presence. With a serious look, the guy tells the princess that he came to take her with him tonight. The princess stares at him with a calm and curious expression, without showing a shred of fear. With a soft and innocent voice, the young woman asks who he is and what he is doing there. Burrs introduces himself as the Demon King who came to kidnap her, making the situation very clear. Unexpectedly, the princess smiles and asks a question that leaves the MC confused. She asks if he is sure he can handle her, leaving the guy not understanding a thing. He finds the question strange and wonders if she is messing with him, since he is a Demon King. Then the princess extends her hands to him and says she will let him take her, which leaves him shocked. Burrs finds her calmness strange and asks what she is plotting, but the young woman says she expected this. The MC warns her not to try to trick him because he is desperate and won't fall for tricks. The princess denies plotting anything and says, as there would be no way to set a trap without knowing he would come. Burrs admits she has a good point, but still feels discomfort with that whole situation. The young woman then extends her hand to him and asks if they can go, leaving the guy even more suspicious. Back at Burrs's tower, We see him flying with the princess toward his snow fortress. Gordon welcomes him at the tower entrance and is relieved to see his king returned safely. Burrs orders the princess to be left on the 4th floor and not in the prison, which surprises his companion. The glasses guy understands his king's decision since the princess didn't offer any resistance. Gordon says he has something important to tell Burrs, and the MC gets curious to know what it is. On the 4th floor, the princess is left alone in a cold and empty hall. She thinks the place has nothing like pillows, blankets, or maids like in her old room. The young woman also misses the beautiful gardens and realizes the place is nothing like her kingdom. But with a mischievous smile on her face, the princess thinks that despite everything, this isn't so bad. Back in the throne room, Burrs is informed about an invitation from the Beast Tower and gets intrigued. Gordon confirms it is a welcome party for the new Demon King, but Burrs gets suspicious. Demon Kings are proud, but in Orion, they work together because of an unprecedented factor. Burrs ignored them before because he thought they were weak, but now decides to interact a little with them. The scene changes to the Beast Tower, an ancient and imposing structure in the middle of a forest. Inside, Draxon, the Beast Demon King, presents himself on his throne with a piece of meat in his mouth. He asks if Burrs is the new Demon King and says he heard he mocked tradition. The MC asks if he is there to fight and tells him to just say what he wants. The giant beast laughs and says Archduke Arcane asked him to take care of Burrs when he arrived. Burrs calls him a noisy old vampire and thinks sending him to Orion wasn't enough. Draxon gets furious with the guy's audacity and says he has a lot of guts to talk like that. The Beast Demon King throws the piece of meat on the floor with enough force to intimidate the guy. He then orders Burrs to lick the piece of meat and says he will forgive his impudence if he does it. The MC asks if Draxon doesn't know why he is there and says it's because he mocked the orthodoxy. With a mocking smile, Burrs reveals that according to orthodoxy, demon kings cannot fight each other. However, the guy completely ignores the rule and lands a powerful kick on the Beast King's chin. The blow knocks the giant creature far away, and the sound of the impact echoes through the place. With a cold and determined look, Burrs asks if Draxon really thought he would follow that rule. The giant creature feels the guy's powerful aura and wonders where all that energy comes from. Draxon retreats and says Arcane asked to see if he kidnapped a princess and threatens him. Burrs interrupts him and reveals he already kidnapped a princess, leaving the creature completely shocked. He then turns to leave and says the princess he kidnapped is to his taste and liking. The scene changes back to Burrs' tower in the snow mountains where everything seems calm. Gordon congratulates him for showing the majesty of a demon king, and Burrs says it was nothing. The MC orders Gordon to check the princess's condition and says he needs to learn how to use her. The window of the princess's room closes on its own, with a dry and creepy sound at that moment. Burrs sits on his throne and thinks that if the other demon kings act like Draxon, things will get difficult. He realizes the consequences of mocking the orthodoxy are greater than he expected, but even with another chance, he would make the same choice, because he prefers to die than bow to trash. The guy decides to rebuild his foundation from scratch and not repeat the same mistakes of his past life. He checks his energy points and is shocked to see he has more than 13,000 points. The MC wonders why he has so many points, since he expected way less than that. Suddenly, he receives a video recording from the Beast Tower and gets curious to know what it is. Draxon congratulates him and says that despite the bad first meeting, he wants to give him something as a veteran. The Beast King says that what he achieved in Orion wasn't easy and is impressed with him. Burrs realizes something is wrong with the message and with Draxon's suspicious attitude. Suddenly, Gordon runs in and says they have a very big problem on the 4th floor. The 4th floor of the tower, which was previously empty, is now covered by lush vegetation and butterflies. Colorful flowers sprout from the ground, and butterflies fly freely, creating a magical and unexpected scenery. Burrs is completely shocked and speechless seeing the drastic transformation of the 4th floor. The system reports that the 4th floor of the tower is in the process of naturalization which leaves him confused. The princess greets him, and he realizes she created an entire ecosystem inside the magic tower. The MC thinks only someone who masters the four elements could do something like that. He realizes that only one person on the continent is capable of this, and that she is not the 13th princess. The young woman confirms his suspicions and says that, as expected, he confused her with her sister Alina. With his face sweating cold and heart racing, the guy starts to understand her true identity. She introduces herself as Hildurin, the first princess of the kingdom of Hildurin, leaving him shocked. The news of the first princess's kidnapping spreads quickly through the kingdom of Hildurin. The king is furious and orders the strongest heroes and the entire army to be gathered to rescue her. He swears he will end the foolish demon king and bring his precious princess back home. With a mischievous smile, Ernan explains that was why she asked if he could handle her. Burz wonders how he didn't detect her mana, since he heard about a genius elemental mage. The princess reveals she can hide her mana with a ring that is a royal family heirloom. She asks if he wants to send her back, and the MC finds himself in a complicated situation. He thinks he will be ridiculed if he sends her back, which would make collecting demonic energy difficult. With that in mind, Burz decides he needs to see that plan through, whatever the cost. Suddenly, the system detects a wave of rage directed at him, and his points go up to more than 19,000. Burz says nothing changes, and that she is still his hostage, leaving the princess surprised and thoughtful. The scene changes to the kingdom of Hildurin, where chaos and fury have taken over the entire palace. The king orders them to finish off the foolish demon king and bring his precious princess back home. A counselor tries to calm the king, saying they still don't know which demon king did that. The king gets even more furious and screams that the princess was kidnapped, and they are doing nothing. Suddenly, a man enters and says something is strange about the first princess's kidnapping. He reveals that the demon king of lust was recently defeated for kidnapping a prince. The counselors are shocked and thoughtful about the revelation and the strange coincidence of facts. The king squeezes the arm of his throne with enough force to demonstrate all his rage and frustration. With a look full of hatred, he deduces it must be a new demon king who appeared in Arian. A soldier reports that they found traces of teleportation magic heading north. The king is surprised and furious to learn that the destination of the magic is the Urgist Mountains. Burz's tower rises imposingly in the middle of the snowy mountains, awaiting the arrival of the heroes. Gordon warns that the Hildurin army will arrive shortly and asks if he can handle everything. With a confident smile and a cunning look, the MC prepares to reveal his plan. He says it's fine, and that the kingdom of Hildurin won't be able to reach the tower. The guy explains that the tower is in the extreme north and the kingdom in the extreme south of the continent. Burz continues saying that the nations on the way won't open passage for their army. Then they will be forced to hire a heroes guild to rescue the princess. Without another option, the king of Hildurin orders contact with the heroes guild. In the heroes guild, everyone talks about the princess's kidnapping and wonders who would do that. They refuse to go to Urgist because the place is full of monsters, and they don't want to risk their lives. Burz explains that the guild won't budge because they only care about money and don't want to take risks. Gordon is surprised and thinks his king considered everything and doesn't follow the rules like the others. He feels that Burz knows Arian very well, as if he had been there before, which intrigues him. The king of Hildurin is furious to learn that no hero wants to accept the job and curses them out. A counselor explains that the heroes in Arian care more about profits than honor. Burz knows it will take time to form a group, and even more time for them to reach the tower. He checks his points but realizes the energy he has isn't enough to handle an army of heroes. The MC remembers the fear he felt facing the heroes in his past life and knows how strong they are. With a plan in mind, he orders Gordon to contact Draxon and says he will sell demonic energy. The demon with glasses is shocked and screams in despair hearing his king's absurd idea. He explains that demonic energy is the currency of dreams, and allows one to transcend species limits. Burrs knows he can't stop the heroes with the energy he has, but with human money, he can do something. The scene changes to the fortress city of Holton Work, near the Urgest Mountains, where life goes on as normal. Burrs arrives in the city in disguise and is approached by two guards who question him about his identity. He introduces himself as a mercenary, but the guards get suspicious because he is heading to the mountains alone. The MC tosses a gold coin to the guards as a bribe and convinces them to let him pass. With passage cleared, the guy enters the city and thinks he needs to find a guide to help him. He walks through the busy streets of the city in search of a guide for his secret plans. At the mercenary guild headquarters, a man complains that the place is good and he doesn't want to leave. He says the soldiers take care of the monsters and they just grab the battle loot. One of his companions asks if he hasn't heard about the new demon king in the mountains. Another mercenary says he kidnapped the princess of Hilderin, but the captain doesn't believe it. A third man reveals that the heroes' guild refused the job after knowing the destination. The captain thinks it's a trick to get more money because the princess is a precious heiress. The other mercenaries agree and laugh at the greed of the guild heroes at that moment. Suddenly, Burrs appears behind the captain and says he understood the situation, startling the man. The captain falls to the floor in fright and asks who he is, while everyone looks at the stranger. With a sinister smile, Burrs says they seem well informed and perfect to be his guides. The mercenaries get annoyed and attack him, saying he won't leave there alive no matter what. The MC dodges the attacks easily and defeats them one by one with powerful punches. He continues to fight with impressive speed and strength, leaving everyone shocked. A giant man tries to attack him with a club, but Burrs stops the blow with just one hand. The guy then breaks the club and delivers a powerful punch to the man's face, knocking him out. With a malicious smile and glowing eyes, the MC shows his true strength and power. The mercenaries are terrified by the stranger's display of power and retreat in fear. Archers on the upper floor try to shoot him, but Burrs dodges the arrows without any effort. He then throws a table at them with superhuman strength, defeating them in an instant. Outside, everyone is shocked and calls him a monster while Burrs gives them a beating. Outside, a mage comments that they are fighting again and wonders if they don't get tired. The guild floor is covered with defeated bodies as Burrs approaches the fallen captain. He interrogates the man and asks where the human market is in exchange for his life. The scene changes to a luxurious and imposing mansion surrounded by trees and a skull gate. Burrs and his mercenary guide walk toward the entrance of the human market in disguise. The guide shows a cage full of men and asks if they are to the MC's liking. Burrs asks if there isn't something rarer and throws a bag of gold to the guide as payment. With a greedy smile, the guide takes him inside, saying he has exactly what he is looking for. The MC reflects that humans desire money and demons desire demonic energy, and there is no difference. They descend a stone staircase toward a more secret area of the market. The guide takes him to a special section where the rarest and most valuable people of the place are kept. Back at the tower, Burrs explains to Gordon that with human money, he can buy people. He plans to buy an elf known for his integrity, to use as a spy against the heroes. The MC believes using an elf as a spy will create chaos among the heroes. In the kingdom of Hilderin, the hero Hillen Cargill presents himself to the king and accepts the rescue mission. He swears he will rescue the princess and bring the demon king's head in the name of justice. With a determined look full of fervor, the hero prepares for his dangerous journey. Burrs plans to use the elf as a spy to confuse the heroes and gain an advantage. He believes the elf's innocence will make his plan much more effective and unexpected. At the human market, the MC says he wants to buy an elf and that his guide will pay for him. Burrs asks if the guide objects, and the man denies it with fear while receiving the payment. The MC asks to be alone with the elf to confirm something, but the guide gets worried. Burrs says it's fine and that if something happens, the guide will pay for the mistake, leaving him irritated. He approaches the cage where the elf is chained and observes the scene with a serious look. The guy regrets seeing a noble elf reduced to a slave and uses his magic to free him. The elf feels the demonic energy and asks if he is a demon and what he wants with him. Burs offers him a chance to get revenge on the humans who captured and humiliated him. The elf finds the offer tempting but says he doesn't trust demons just as much as humans. The MC says he is different and promises his safety and freedom if he is loyal for 50 years. He explains that 50 years isn't much for an elf and is better than being humiliated by humans. The elf accuses him of being a demon who wants to destroy the world tree they serve. He also says it is strange for a demon to ask an elf for help, and Burs admits he is right. With a cunning smile, the MC decides to make an irrefutable proposal to the elf. He swears by the Demon King's standards that he will keep his promise and won't touch the world tree. In exchange, he asks the elf to swear by the world tree that he will give him loyalty for 50 years. The elf calls him strange but accepts the proposal if he goes that far to prove his word. He introduces himself as Granada of the Maple tribe and says he will make the vow when he sees the Demon King. With a confident smile, Burs reveals that he is the Demon King recruiting him. Granada is shocked and speechless hearing the unexpected revelation from the guy in front of him. He starts laughing and says demon kings get weaker away from their towers and wouldn't buy people. Granada laughs and says if he really is a demon king, he will give him loyalty for 100 years. Back at Burs's tower, Granada is taken to the 5th floor and is shocked by what he sees. Burs reminds him of the 100-year contract, and the elf realizes he really is a demon king. Granada screams that it is a scam and complains that the tower is empty and has nothing up to the 3rd floor. He continues complaining that there is nothing on the 1st floors and that the tower is a fraud. The elf despairs seeing that the 4th floor only has nature and no monster to protect them. He screams that at this rate, they won't last a year and that the heroes will destroy them easily. Burs reminds him of the contract and releases his demonic energy to show he isn't playing around. Granada feels the pressure of the demonic power and finally convinces himself that he is a demon king. He remembers that no monster attacked them on the way because they didn't want to risk it with a demon king. With this in mind, Granada kneels and swears loyalty to Burs by the world tree for 100 years. He believes he will play an important role in the demon king's evil plan and will have his revenge. But to his surprise, Burs asks him to prepare a meal, leaving him completely confused. Granada is shocked and speechless at the Demon King's unexpected and trivial request. He, who expects to be part of an important plan, is now in the kitchen preparing food. Princess Ernan appears and offers to help cook, leaving the elf even more confused. In the dining room on the 5th floor, Burs and his companions sit down for a meal. Granada asks if the woman is the Princess of Hilderin, and Burs confirms it is Ernan Hilderin. The elf freaks out knowing he kidnapped the crowned princess and screams that he is crazy. He despairs and asks how they are going to stop the heroes with an empty tower and no defenses. Burs says that was why he bought him and orders him to sit and eat, leaving the elf confused. The MC praises the food, and the princess says she helped, leaving Granada even more lost. On the 4th floor, Burs says that if the heroes get there, it will already be game over for them. He reveals that Granada will disrupt the human world in his place, and the elf understands he will be a spy. The MC says he needs to test his skills and challenges him to a fight right there. Burs offers to fight with one hand and no demonic energy and reduce the contract if he wins. Granada accepts the challenge and prepares to fight with everything to earn his freedom back. The elf advances with impressive speed and attacks the MC with a series of blows. He uses the mana from the environment to strengthen his attacks and surprises Burs with his skill. The MC praises his moves and realizes he absorbed the mana from the 4th floor. Granada screams that he chose the wrong opponent and place and prepares a powerful attack. He uses his magic to trap Burs with vines and leaves him vulnerable to a direct attack. The elf advances to deliver the final blow and screams that he will take his 50 years back. With a sinister smile, Burrs says that should be enough to test his skills. He transforms into his demonic form and reminds Granada who his true opponent is. The MC says he won't use demonic energy, but will control his strength so as not to kill him. Granada is terrified by the transformation and Burrs' aura of power and tries to retreat. A large explosion happens in the tower, and the sound echoes through the surrounding snowy mountains. The scene changes to the mercenary headquarters in Horton Walk, where life goes on normally. The mercenary guide who helped Burrs appears, with eyes shining with gold and an expression of happiness. Burrs says he wants to hire the guide for a year, and the man accepts excitedly and asks for the budget. The MC throws a bag full of gold as a deposit, leaving all the mercenaries shocked. The mercenaries swear loyalty to their captain, and he thinks about getting a new squad. Burrs orders the captain to put a man on his team to transmit his orders, and he accepts. Granada appears with his face all bruised and introduces himself as the new team member. The mercenaries are shocked and afraid seeing the elf state after the fight with Burrs. They start crying in fear and regret for having challenged such a powerful man. The mercenaries unite in a group hug and accept Granada as their new companion. Burrs observes the scene and thinks that despite being mediocre, they are experienced and hard to find. He knows the only hero who would answer Hildren's call is Hillen Cargill, the demon slayer. The MC gives the mercenaries their first mission and orders them to investigate the hero, Hillen Cargill, with a serious and determined look. He orders them to investigate the hero hired by Hildren. The mercenaries accept the mission with enthusiasm and prepare to leave immediately. Back at his tower, Burrs thinks that now that he delegated the task to Granada, it is his turn to get stronger. He observes the monitoring screens and prepares to start his own training and strengthening. Demonic energy can be used to upgrade the tower or the Demon King himself. The only way for Burrs to get stronger is through the Spirit Flower, a mana crystal. In the Urgest Mountains, nature is untouched, and spirit flowers absorb mana naturally. With that, their energy becomes even more refined and powerful. A true treasure. Burrs tells Gordon he is going to look for some spirit flowers to increase his power. Gordon warns it is risky to go without preparation, and that the monsters will attack him at the first opportunity. Burrs says he can handle the monsters, but finding the flowers will be difficult without a mana detector. Suddenly, they hear knocking on the door, and wonder who it could be at that moment. Princess Ernin appears with a slime on her head, and asks if they are busy. The two are surprised by the princess's sudden appearance, and don't know how to react. The scene changes to Burrs and Ernin leaving the tower, with the princess's spirits floating around. Ernin says she is excited and reminds Burrs of his promise to let her decorate the 4th floor. The MC agrees as long as she finds the spirit flowers and wonders how far she will go. The princess is happy and thinks she didn't expect to be able to leave the tower, and that it was good to have checked. She pets one of her fire spirits with a gentle smile and prepares for the journey. Burrs picks her up and tells her to hold on tight while opening his demon wings. He then flies at high speed into the sky, leaving the princess startled and unprepared. The young woman closes her eyes tightly because of the speed and the sunlight blinding her. She opens her eyes slowly and is amazed by the view of the world from above for the first time. Ernin realizes she didn't notice the vastness of the world on the day she was kidnapped because of the darkness. She remembers her monotonous life of training and study and thought it would be like that until she died. The princess says she is probably the only person who has ever flown over the Urgest Mountains. Burrs calls her princess and asks what she has to do, but she interrupts him and asks him to call her Ernin. He scolds her for forgetting her place and threatens to send her to the underground prison. Ernin apologizes, and Burrs orders her to use her spirits to find the spirit flowers. The princess's spirits say goodbye and wish them a safe return from the journey. Burrs thinks they probably won't find the flowers quickly, but will be faster than him. Suddenly, Ernin shouts that she found one and points to a glowing flower in the middle of the snow. A beautiful ice spirit flower shines with a bluish and pure light in the middle of the landscape. They realize a group of ogres was already at the location and stares at them with hostility. Burrs calls them demon descendants and orders them to obey and leave the place in peace. The ogres refuse to obey and say they don't like him and that he will die there. The MC laughs and realizes Gordon was right about the monster's wild nature. He transforms into his demonic form and says he will simply burn them all to ashes. The ogres advance to attack and scream to protect what is theirs and to kill and eat the intruder. Burrs concentrates his demonic energy and prepares to unleash a devastating attack against them. The MC's black flames envelop the ogres and make them scream in pain and agony. One of the ogres orders them to attack the weakest one first and advances toward the princess. Ernan gets scared by the ogre's approach, but Burrs moves to protect her. He creates a sphere of demonic energy and launches it against the ogres to stop them. The attack creates a wave of purple energy that sweeps the battlefield and pushes the enemies away. The princess watches the scene and thinks that ogres are strong enough to take down ogres. She is impressed seeing the Demon King's power and realizes he is much stronger than she imagined. With arms crossed, Burrs releases all his power and shows the true strength of a Demon King. The scene ends with the ogres' bodies fallen in the snow, while Burrs and Ernan observe the carnage. Ernan is amazed by the purity of the spirit flower's mana and admires it with curiosity. Burrs warns her not to covet it, but says she can have one if she finds more flowers. Unfortunately, they don't find any more flowers, even with Ernan trying her best to look. Back at Burrs' tower, the MC reflects on recent events in his plans. He thinks kidnapping Ernan was a mistake, but she might be more useful than he imagined. The princess sleeps peacefully on the 4th floor, covered by Burrs' coat and surrounded by her spirits. Gordon informs that he received a contact from Granada, and Burrs is surprised by the speed. Granada reports that Hill and Cargill and 32 other heroes departed from Hildren's capital. They are following the classic path of forming a party and growing through villager quests. Gordon prepared some plans for the hero's journey, but Burrs discards them without even looking. The MC surprises his servant by dismissing all the plans he had prepared. With a cunning smile, Burrs says he won't send monsters or interruptions to the hero's journey. He orders Granada to join the hero's journey with the mercenaries to build trust. Gordon worries about the tower's lack of defenses, but Burrs reassures him and says he has a plan. The MC reveals he is going to reinforce the tower with the help of a dwarf, leaving Gordon shocked. The demon with glasses freaks out knowing there will be a dwarf in the tower along with a human and an elf. Burrs ignores him and concentrates his demonic energy, preparing for his next move. He explains that he won't stop the heroes with a dwarf, but with dwarven magic tools. Burrs says the heroes will expect weak monsters on the 1st floor, but will be greeted by cannons. Gordon is shocked by the idea and realizes the heroes would never be prepared for something like that. Gordon shakes his head in denial and says that even so, this is very far from the standards. He turns around and sees that Burrs has already disappeared from his throne, leaving him alone in the room. The glasses demon freaks out realizing his king left for another kidnapping without warning. The scene changes to Wolfner, the underground city of dwarves, where life follows its rhythm. A dwarf blacksmith works in his forge with skill and concentration, shaping the hot metal. We find out this is Loger Friedrich, the best dwarf blacksmith, and he is about to get kidnapped. So, our boy arrives at the underground dwarven city of Wolfner. Burr thinks to himself that he's fought plenty of dwarves before, but this is his first time actually visiting their city. He then walks into a local tavern called the Midnight Inn to get some info. Inside, our protagonist tosses a few coins on the counter and asks where he can find the best blacksmith. The dwarf says that for a human, he sure knows how to speak their language, to which Burr mutters that dwarves are all about the coin. The dwarf then instructs him to head to the inner city and take an elevator down a giant crater. Following the instructions, our hero makes a beeline for his objective. In a real hurry, he moves quickly through the streets of the dwarven city, not wanting to waste any time. The dwarf had also told him to go to the very last floor and find the deepest room. Once there, He peeks through the door to see if the blacksmith is actually inside. And sure enough, our boy finds the blacksmith working hard at his forge. The greatest dwarven blacksmith's name is Lager Fredry, and he seems super focused. Burr is impressed by the dwarf's skill and wonders if this is truly the work of the best blacksmith. With a wicked grin, our protagonist then gets the brilliant idea to just kidnap the guy. However, as he gets ready to make his move, the blacksmith attacks him with his flaming hammer. The attack catches Burr by surprise, and he's sent flying back by the force of the blow. Our boy is shocked and realizes the dwarf sensed his fate demonic energy. Lager then leaps at him, hammer in hand, and Burr wonders if he is what he thinks he is. The dwarf attacks with full force, and a massive fiery explosion erupts on the spot. Burr catches the hammer with one hand, and realizes this blacksmith is actually a hero. Lager Fredry introduces himself as the blacksmith hero, and yells that Burr won't leave the city alive. With a smug grin, our hero says that for all that tough talk, he's pretty weak, and adds that he's not a demon. He then reveals himself as a demon king, leaving Lager completely terrified by the sight. The dwarf's hammer drops to the floor with a clang as he stands there, frozen in fear. Suddenly, two dwarven guards burst in, asking what all the noise was about. They look at the now empty and silent forge, not understanding what happened there. The guards then shout that an intruder has kidnapped Lager, and an alarm sounds throughout the city. Meanwhile, our boy is already long gone with a past, out Lager, ordering a city-wide search for him. Burr threatens the dwarf, telling him not to make a sound, and he asks if the demon king is after the princess. Our protagonist says no and mentions he's heard that dwarven blacksmiths dig their own escape tunnels. Lager thinks that a demon king here could only be after the princess, and that he's lived a quiet life to avoid exactly this. He starts to freak out, wondering why this was happening to him, of all people, right now. The system then reveals that the dwarf hero Lager's main trait is his weakness. Our hero realizes he doesn't want to cooperate and offers a deal: kidnap the princess, and he'll let him go. He continues, saying that if a rumor about the selfish hero spreads, the dwarves will despise him. Lager panics and curses Burr out, knowing this would absolutely ruin his life forever. He thinks that since he's already known for being weak, everyone would believe he sold out the princess. Burr then gives him a choice: sell out the princess or follow him and cooperate. Our protagonist guarantees his safety if he helps and swears it on the Demon King's banner. The dwarf knows the banner is like a religion to them, and that he wouldn't break a vow made upon it. With his face slick with cold sweat, Lager seems to be making a very difficult decision. But suddenly, his expression changes, and he tells Burr to get a move on to the tunnel, leaving our hero confused. Meanwhile, back at Lager's workshop, the guards have surrounded the place and confirmed his disappearance. A girl with pink hair and bright eyes then appears, calling out his name. This is Louise Verft, the princess of the Dwarven Kingdom, and she is seriously ticked off about his disappearance. She yells at a guard that it makes no sense for a hero to be kidnapped, but he explains that Lager isn't a combat type. The princess then orders them to find the kidnapper and bring him to her immediately. With a threatening glare, she says she'll have their heads if they don't find him. Far away, Burr is following Lager through a cramped tunnel, complaining about the view in front of him. He tells the dwarf to walk faster, but Lager says he can't because the tunnel is too narrow. Finally, they emerge from the tunnel and come face to face with our protagonist's tower in the distance. Lager then collapses to the ground and says his part is done, and that the Demon King is on his own now. However, our hero transforms, and the dwarf reminds him of the oath made on the banner. Burr just laughs and says he couldn't care less about that piece of junk banner, leaving Lager completely floored. He wonders what he's going to do with the dwarf, who now regrets not selling out the princess. Lager begs for his life, offering his metalworking skills and saying he can be very useful. He offers to be used as a spy and steal information from the dwarven city just to survive. Our protagonist then agrees to spare him, and the dwarf thanks him profusely on his knees. But in his head, he's calling Burr an idiot and already planning to betray him the first chance he gets. He keeps up the act, but internally swears that the Demon King is going to regret this. Back at the tower, Lager wakes up completely disoriented, surrounded by spirits and butterflies. He finds himself on the 4th floor of Burr's tower, along with Gordon and Princess Ernan. Gordon freaks out seeing a hero there, and our hero immediately tells him to shut it. Meanwhile, Granada tries to give a report, but Burr ignores him for the moment. Princess Ernan approaches and asks if he's the hero who came to save her. Lager then demands to know why he's there, and Burr says he never promised to let him go, only to let him live. Our protagonist reveals that he knocked him out and carried him here to make sure he wouldn't run off. The dwarf then starts to laugh, forced and completely without humor. His laughter becomes more and more desperate and manic as time goes on. He keeps laughing while on the inside. He's completely broken and devoid of all hope. Our boy, with a cynical smile, asks if he's happy to become his subordinate. With tears in his eyes, Lager says he's overjoyed with his current situation. Our hero praises his mindset and says he'll give him an important mission. He orders Lager to install artillery on the 1st floor to wipe out the heroes. The scene shifts to the hero's journey prep station in Ergist. There, Granada gets a report about a rumor that the new Demon King uses black flames. He also hears the Demon King isn't sending out monsters out of fear and figures out the plan. Meanwhile, our hero smirks, thinking that the heroes aren't going to accomplish a thing. Granada then ends the communication with his master and agrees with the plan. The elf thinks the Demon King is weakening the heroes and has a solid grasp of human nature. Entering the location, he's relieved he's not an enemy of someone so clever. Back at the tower, Burrs tells Lager that he can't use mana stones in his creations. The dwarf complains that traps without mana won't work, and our hero tells him to figure it out. Lager explains that heroes can sense the energy from mana stones and will detect the traps. Our protagonist threatens him, saying that if he's not good enough, he'll just bring in another blacksmith. Scared, the dwarf says he created a tool that hides traces of mana. Burrs is suspicious and asks if this is his excuse to try and escape. Lager feels something on his neck and asks, terrified, what was placed there. Our boy reveals it's a magic item that can pop his head right off his body. He adds that the item will make him unrecognizable, and the dwarf promises to never take it off. Then, on a map, we see their journey through various kingdoms to collect materials. After a month, they've gathered everything they need, and Lager stashes it all in his spatial pocket. With everything ready, the two return to the underground dwarven city, Wolfner. Right as they arrive, a dwarven guard is knocked out so they can pass through without any trouble. In the dwarven city, Princess Louise is furiously shouting because they can't find the person who vanished. A guard says the blacksmiths have many tunnels, and they've searched every single one. She gets annoyed and calls them useless, since it was obvious the kidnapped person would have already escaped. Angrily, Louise threatens a guard and says he has 2 weeks to find the culprit. Desperate, the guard promises he will find him, and she orders them to search again. Now alone, she looks at several pieces of broken metal on the floor. Louise then stares at a blade and says Lager made it before he was kidnapped. With a sinister look, she says he can't kick the bucket before finishing her weapon. Suddenly, a mysterious figure appears right behind the princess without her noticing. She turns around and is surprised to see a familiar face in front of her. The dwarf is using a mask that changes his face and manages to enter the castle. Louise then remembers a secret tunnel that only one person knew about. Because of this, she calls him by Lager's name, and the dwarf is taken by surprise. He tries to play it cool using the mask, but the princess isn't falling for it. Louise then clenches her fists and says that the scoundrel has finally returned. She smiles in a terrifying way, thinking he hid just to get out of making her weapon. Next, the princess declares him her slave and forces him to make weapons forever. Before that, she lifts him up to punish him, and Lager screams, begging for forgiveness. However, a bolt of purple energy suddenly appears and hits the girl full force. The princess is thrown far away but manages to land on her feet and asks who's there. Our hero then steps onto the floor, revealing his presence. Meanwhile, Burrs tells Lager to grab his tools, and the dwarf scrambles. Princess Louise gets furious and asks who he is, and our boy says he's the dwarf's master. She calls him a liar and screams that Logger is her slave forever, then lunges at him. Luis attacks with a flurry of punches, but our protagonist easily blocks every single one. With a serious look, our guy analyzes the dwarven princess's movements. He then counterattacks with a powerful kick infused with demonic energy. Burrs manages to grab her shoulder, stopping her attack cold. Our hero is surprised by the princess's strength, especially given how young she is. But Louise breaks free and launches another attack with her firepower. Then, our protagonist grabs her by the hair to stop the blow. Next, he hits the princess with several strikes of dark energy. The final attack leaves her completely stunned for a moment. This is Louise Verf, the second dwarven princess, and even though she's not a hero, she's pretty tough. Our boy remembers that before he traveled back in time, she was one of the strongest fighters. He figures he could take her out right now, but it would drain all his demonic energy. If he did that, the guards would find out he's a demon king and capture him. While the fight was going on, Logger was grabbing all the tools he could. Our hero then grabs the dwarf and asks if he's got everything so they can bail. They're standing in front of a machine called the Mana Phantom, created by Logger. Burrs threatens Logger, telling him to finish up in 1 minute, leaving the dwarf in a panic. Suddenly, a furious Princess Louise appears and asks who gave him permission to run away. Our guy warns that he'll have to finish her off, and Logger hurries even more. However, our hero thinks that he doesn't know how long he can last without his full power. The two then trade blows, and a huge explosion of energy rocks the place. Louise holds him down and threatens to break Logger's legs so he can't escape. With a smile, Burrs says he's going to take the blacksmith and her equipment. Meanwhile, the dwarf fiddles with his machine and activates a few gears. Logger yells that he's finished, and the machine releases a massive wave of energy. The princess is furious and screams at the dwarf for coming back just to get the machine. Taking advantage of her distraction, our protagonist sees an opening. He dodges the princess's attack and lands a powerful kick right on her. The blow sends her flying into the wall and destroys part of the dwarf's workshop. Our boy then uses his subspace pocket and tells Logger to put the machine in there. Louise is hit by the red energy but seems to have taken no damage at all. The machine vanishes right in front of her, and the princess is left in total shock. The guards arrive, and Louise yells at them for taking so long to show up. She orders them to chase Logger through the tunnel and punches the ground in a rage. Louise realizes the tunnel has been blocked and wonders if he really doesn't want to make her weapon. With a wicked smile, the princess finds the whole situation quite interesting. With a look full of hatred, Princess Louise swears she will find Logger. She screams his name in anger and promises he will regret everything. Meanwhile, back at our hero's tower, something new has appeared. On the first floor, the Mana Phantom machine is finally installed in the main hall. Gordon and Ernon are impressed, and Burrs explains that this will stop the heroes. Logger then announces that the installation is complete, and our boy tells him to activate it. Our protagonist says the effort was worth it and tells the dwarf to turn on the machine. With that, the machine begins to spin, and a blue energy emerges from its core. An intense light illuminates the entire hall, blinding everyone there. Then the system announces that the tower has recognized the machine and needs 10,000 points. Even though it's pricey, he confirms the synchronization and his points drop drastically. Thus, the machine recognizes him as its master and switches its power source to demonic energy. Logger is shocked and says that not even he, the creator, knew that was possible. To test it, our hero asks Princess Ernon to use any spell she wants. The girl then unleashes a giant spell, and Granada complains about the mess it's going to make. Our guy observes her power and then quickly tells her to stop the spell. He thinks that power like that should be detectable from the outside and goes to check. Outside, in the snow, our protagonist looks at the tower's entrance. He can't feel or see anything and realizes the power of the synchronization. Realizing he can manipulate the tower, he uses his energy on the ground to test it. Using his energy, our guy is shocked by what happens. He turns around and realizes that his tower has simply vanished into thin air. With a wave of his hand, our protagonist uses his demonic energy, and the tower reappears in front of him, glowing with a purple power. He understands he can hide the tower, but it drains a lot of energy. Despite this, our hero smiles, knowing this will be very useful in the future. Inside, Logger begs to get a look at the new machine. The dwarf has never seen anything like it and asks to analyze this historic invention. Burrs allows it, as long as his traps finish off the heroes on the first floor. Excited, Logger runs to the machine, shouting with joy. Our guy then makes a proposal to Princess Ernon, leaving her stunned. He invites her to fight against the heroes or else return to her castle. Burrs thinks she's innocent and probably wouldn't betray him in this situation. Ernon considers the offer and thinks about which elements she would use in battle. Our protagonist tells her to just mess with the heroes' heads, and in return he'll grant her one wish. She accepts, but asks to be introduced as the Demon King's servant, not as a princess. Our hero agrees to the simple request, and the girl gets pretty excited. She then asks how she should fight, but he just tells her to follow his orders. Back on his throne, our protagonist plans his next steps. He's going to use the cannons on the first floor and the princess as bait on the fourth floor. However, our hero knows this is far from enough to win. Therefore, he needs to get stronger and decides to gather more spirit flowers. So he and Princess Ernon head out to look for more of them in the snow. But it's already their third attempt, and her spirits can't find anything. Suddenly, a giant, furry creature appears right in front of them. It's a Priul orc, one of the strongest monsters in the snow mountains. Our guy gets ready to fight and says he's already sick of orcs. Unexpectedly, the monster kneels before him and Ernon. He introduces himself as the chief of the orcs and bows, asking to be his servant. Soon, several other orcs appear in the snow and kneel as well. Our protagonist has no idea what's going on and asks what they want. The chief explains that his ancestor betrayed the demon realm, which is why they live here. Burrs tells them to cut it out, but notices they resonate with the flower's energy. The monster says he knows everything and doesn't hesitate to hand over an item. The orc then opens a box and reveals 3 very rare spirit flowers. Our guy understands why he couldn't find the flowers and praises the orc's cleverness. The monster says they value wisdom, and Burrs asks why they sought him out. The orc chief then looks at our protagonist with a very serious gaze. Our hero smiles, understanding that they seek power through wisdom. With a wicked grin, he accepts the offer and conjures up a magic circle. Our hero says he will accept Krutu only as his subordinate, leaving the orc shocked. With that, a dragon mark appears on him, and Burrs tells him to expand his tribe. He also promises a reward better than power, and horns grow on the orc. Thus, Krutu evolves and officially becomes an ally of the Demon King. Kneeling, the orc gives his thanks and swears eternal loyalty to his new master. Immediately after, the entire orc tribe bows and pledges their loyalty to him. With everything settled, the scene shifts to the tower, which is now at full strength. Outside, the legion of Priul orcs stands guard as the first line of defense. On the first floor, Logger is ready with his 60 mana cannons. Meanwhile, on the 4th floor, Princess Ernon waits with her spirits. From his throne, our protagonist monitors everything and sees that the plan is ready. With a determined look, he calls out to the heroes, ready for his revenge. The scene then takes us to a snow-covered pine forest. There, the hero Hillen and the elf Granada finally reach their destination. In front of them, the imposing and dangerous Urgest Mountains are revealed. The scene shifts to the hero's prep base in Horton Walk. Inside, a huge banquet is underway, with everyone celebrating. The hero, Hillen, thanks the Lord for the feast, and they exchange some pleasantries. Then the Lord asks Hillen to say a few words to the crew. He announces real loud that the hero is going to speak to boost everyone's morale. Meanwhile, the other nobles and warriors watch everything intently. With that, Hillen clears his throat, getting ready for his speech. He starts by saying that their long journey is finally coming to an end. Everyone laughs when he says the Demon King hasn't even sent a single monster their way. Hillen raises his goblet and swears that tomorrow they will claim the Demon King's head. He shouts that they will remind everyone who the true masters of the world are. The crowd goes wild, and everyone cheers, shouting for justice. However, Grana notices that the troop size hasn't changed, just as Burrs predicted. The elf figure's Hillen's charisma was what kept everyone together up to this point. Granada worries because the tower he saw looked empty and like an easy target. But then he panics, because if the heroes actually win, he'll be free from his curse. The elf then decides to send a report to his master to calm his nerves. Out on the balcony, he reports that they've reached Horton Walk and will head up the mountain tomorrow. Our hero then warns him to be careful with the snow and not to let his guard down. Finally, Burrs gives him one last warning: never stay near the tower's door. Suddenly, Hillen shows up and asks what Granada is doing out there all by himself. He then offers some fruit wine that elves like, and the young man accepts. Hillen notices the elf concern and asks if he thinks they're going to win. To Granada's surprise, the hero admits that he doesn't know if they can pull it off either. He explains that storming a demon king's tower is always a nightmare. The elf tries to cheer him up, saying he's already defeated the Lust Demon King, but he reminds him that nobody knows how Hillen did it and asks him to tell the story. The hero stays silent for a moment, a serious look on his face. He then smiles and says he only succeeded because of his brave companions. Hillen states that if he fights alongside Granada, they will surely be victorious. With a determined smile, the elf agrees and says he'll do his best. With that, the two head back inside the hall to rejoin the others. However, from behind, Hillen looks at Granada with a suspicious expression. With a sinister look, he thinks to himself that he's counting on his brave companion. The next morning, the town of Horton Walk is buzzing and ready. All the citizens pour into the streets to wish the heroes march good luck. The crowd chants the names of Hillen and the other leaders of the expedition. The scene shifts to the Urgest Mountains Gorge, where the army is advancing. Some heroes comment that the weather is nice, and there isn't much snow in the area. Other mercenaries joke that the monsters must be scared of Hillen. Meanwhile, one of the mercs cracks a joke, and something purple lands on his head. The guy is totally confused and touches the purple goo that just fell out of nowhere. Suddenly, he starts panicking when he sees a bunch of gulls climbing up the gorge. Seeing this, Hillen and his troops brace themselves for the fight ahead. The hero then shouts not to panic and to carve a path through the monsters. But a soldier soon warns that an ice giant has appeared, and Hillen orders everyone to fall back. With that, a giant ice skeleton emerges in their path, blocking the way. Hillen decides to fight the monster alone, so the others can escape. So, the hero courageously charges toward the giant to begin the battle. The creature stares down the warrior, its red eyes glowing with pure malice. However, Hillen is confident, thinking the beast can't be stronger than the Lust Demon King. The giant attacks with its shadow claw, but the hero easily dodges it. He then counter-attacks, slicing off the monster's arm with a swing of his sword. The giant's arm shatters into 1,000 pieces of ice from the force of the blow. Without wasting a second, Hillen continues his assault, flying toward the creature's chest. He focuses his energy into his sword, which begins to glow with an intense blue light. In the blink of an eye, he sees the perfect opening to land the final blow. With all his might, he pierces the giant's chest, releasing an explosion of energy. In the same instant, Hillen screams for everyone to run as fast as they can. He warns them that he's blocked the path, and that they must use this chance to get away. With one last cry of agony, the ice giant is completely disintegrated by the attack. A massive explosion of light and smoke spreads throughout the entire gorge. Far away, the heroes who escaped collapse exhausted in the snow after the intense battle. They complain that the place is insane, but they're thankful that Hillen kept the losses to a minimum. Besides, they all believe that since he's already beaten one demon king, there's nothing to worry about. Even Granada starts to believe that maybe, just maybe, Hillen can actually defeat the demon king. Meanwhile, the hero himself looks determined and confident in his impending victory. However, an army of orcs is watching them from a cliff, waiting for the right moment. Hillen then senses the demonic energy and realizes they are servants of the Demon King. With an intimidating glare, Kruwu, the orc leader, welcomes the foolish heroes. A knight readies his attack, but Grata stops him when he hears a strange sound. That's when he remembers our boys, warning to be careful with the snow. The elf panics as he finally understands the true meaning of that warning. With a wicked look, Kru vows that none of them will make it to the tower. In his tower, our protagonist smirks, This was his real plan from the very beginning. Soon, the heroes look up and feel the entire mountain begin to shake violently. Granada screams his head off, blasting the Demon King for his cruel and unexpected trap. Because of the sound, a gigantic avalanche starts barreling down toward the army. The elf panics and yells for everyone to run for their lives immediately. And on his throne, Burrs snaps his fingers, satisfied, as he listens to the screams of agony on his monitors. With a wicked smile, our protagonist welcomes the heroes, because he vows that this time, he will hunt every last one of them down without mercy. Our hero then recalls that he warned Granada about 3 important things. The first was to be careful with the snow falling on the mountain. With that, the heroes who survived the avalanche are completely lost. So, Hillen orders them to make camp to search for those who were carried away. The second warning was to never let their guard down during the night. And so, the orcs take advantage of the darkness and relentlessly attack the camp. Granada is furious and just keeps cussing out the Demon King for the constant attacks. Our protagonist watches everything, knowing that they'll soon be exhausted. Hillen is out of breath, as his group is completely worn out. 3 days later, the group had been whittled down to 256. But to everyone's surprise, the Demon King's tower is simply not there. Hillen is furious and yells that the tower was supposed to be in an easy-to-find spot. Seeing this, the rest of his troops start to split up and leave the area. One of his knights says he's giving up because the journey has been a total failure. He apologizes, but says that their lives are more important than the mission. The hero grinds his teeth in anger as he watches his companions abandon him. 6 days later, the remaining 52 heroes finally find the tower. They then storm the first floor, shouting that they're going to finish everyone in there. And the third warning our hero gave Granada was to stay away from the door, because the moment they stepped inside, the dwarf's cannons would be ready to fire, leaving Hillen and his men completely shocked by the unexpected welcome party. A blast of blue energy immediately hits all of them at once. The hero count drops from 52 to 1, and our hero notices something. It turns out that not even the cannons were enough to take down Hillen Cargill. The hero gets up, furious, and yells that nothing about this Demon King is normal. Granada then appears and says he barely managed to get clear of the attack. Hillen then tells the elf to come with him to the next floor, just the 2 of them. He brags that he absorbed the power of the Lust Demon King, and that he's not afraid of anything. Granada agrees, and the 2 press on to the next floors. However, the second floor of the tower is completely empty and silent. On top of that, the 3rd floor has no monsters or traps either. The hero gets suspicious, thinking something is very wrong with this tower, until they reach the 4th floor and come face to face with a massive forest. He is totally shocked, as he never expected to find something like that in there. Hillen wonders if they're really inside a Demon King's tower. Suddenly, a mysterious figure appears and says they've finally made it. It's Princess Ernan, who introduces herself as one of the 4 heavenly kings. With a smile, she reveals herself as the Dark Spiritist and their opponent. Granada is stunned by the scene and doesn't know what to do or think. Hillen recognizes the princess and asks why she's dressed like that, but Ernan denies being a princess and says she is now the Dark Spiritist. With that, she unleashes a powerful attack using the magic of the 4 elements. The hero realizes she's not being controlled, which confuses him even more. He then remembers the orcs and the avalanche that nearly wiped them out. He also recalls the ambushes and the tower hidden in the middle of nowhere, and the mana cannons and the empty floors that made no sense at all. Now, the very princess he came to save is trying to take him out. Hillen starts laughing nervously, since he can't make sense of anything anymore. He screams that he's going to destroy everything and charges furiously to attack the girl, but our protagonist appears and asks if he really thinks he can. He immediately attacks Hillen with a powerful blast of purple demonic energy. With a smirk, our hero finally reveals his face to his enemy. Hillen calls him a coward and says he'll need more power to win. He then points at Granada and tells our hero to look over there. When our protagonist turns around, Hillen seizes the chance to attack from behind. He uses a strange ring and attacks Granada from behind without a second thought. Hillen shouts for them to combine their strength, but the elf is confused. Suddenly, Granada feels his energy being drained and starts to panic. With a wicked smile, Hillen says that as long as Granada is by his side, there's no problem. Our hero then realizes that the ring is a demonic artifact. The hero reveals that it's a forbidden item called the Elf Eater. He explains that the ring converts the elf's life force into mana, but it's a one-way trip for the elf. Lying on the ground, Grada weakly calls him a con man and a hypocrite. Our protagonist smiles and says he likes just how despicable the hero is. He then asks if Hillen will become weak if he just takes the ring off. The hero challenges him, since not even the Lust Demon King could remove the item. Super calm, our boy just calls out Gordon's name. Hillen is completely baffled and doesn't understand what's happening. Suddenly, the hero's hand is sliced off, and he screams in pain, not seeing anyone there, because Gordon appears and says that for a human, he's rude and loud. The demon in glasses then attacks Hillen with impressive speed. He lands several blows on the hero, who can't even defend himself. Hillen is shocked to have been defeated by a simple high-class demon. Our protagonist appears and warns him that he's not going anywhere this time. The hero is terrified and thinks he needs to dodge the attack at all costs. But our boy unleashes demonic energy in the form of a giant dragon. Hillen realizes he can't escape because Gordon is holding him firmly to the ground. And with a wicked grin, Burrs wonders to himself, what kind of demon king is he anyway? With a psycho smile, our hero screams his enemy's name, Hillen Cargill, and in that same instant, he unleashes a powerful blast of purple demonic energy.